So it's not just economic, but it's also environment and social as well. So today, we're going to the key concepts of the NSDL and also what it means to produce an account. So in the next slide. So just quickly, who are we? I'm from the Global Ocean Accounts Partnership, which is currently co-chaired by Indonesia and Ecuador. And the secretariat is inside of a university. So that's why I'm an academic, but I'm also part of the secretariat. And what we do is we help countries and subnational government to develop ocean accounting. And so we usually do this through collaboration. So we're very happy to collaborate and also produce knowledge, so standards. And I can give you a link to the website afterwards, which gives step-by-step instructions so you can follow up later on. So in this slide, you can only manage what you measure. This is a very common phrase in business. But it also applies to planning. It also applies to economic development. And so to measure, we know that data are key to inform decisions. And the last, the standard provides the certainty. So if I say 5 tons here in Riau, and then you say 5 tons in West Papua, that should be the same, right? 5 tons of carbon. When we measure, we need to have the same language, the same concepts. So in the next slide, and one more click. When we make accounts, I'm not going to lie to you, it's very hard. It takes a long time, a lot of concepts, a lot of experts. So they're only useful if somebody at the end uses the account. So it needs to be linked to policy. So, next slide. Science is only one of the many inputs within the accounting. There's policy, there's networking, there's institutions. So of course we have universities here, we have KKP, we have the provincial government, everyone working together because the knowledge and the evidence at the moment is split. It's fragmented across different organizations. And what we're trying to do is put it all together and get more value from the information. So, ocean accounts is evidence, and it's one way to, bring everything together. Before we begin, as I mentioned before, accounts are only useful if they are used. So in the next slide, so you've already formed into groups. What I would like you to do is to start framing the challenge that you'll be discussing in the next 3 days into these 4 questions. And then in the presentation, I want you to identify which account might be useful to answer your question. There are many components of ocean accounting: economic, social, environmental, different extent, condition. What is the ones that are most useful to your challenge? So we'll start the session with a activity. So hopefully we can make that a bit bigger, or maybe take a picture and zoom in. But those 4 questions. So the problem, the benefit, the solution, and what does the audience need to hear? So your audience might be very specific as well. So maybe 10, 15 minutes, if that's okay. There's boards in the back, right? So there's boards in the back. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. So please get into your groups and just answer these 4 questions. And then have them in mind when we go through the session. Why we do this is because we can look at all of the solutions at the start, no? But as we go on our journey, we have to ask ourselves, can the solution be applied everywhere? Sometimes, coastal abrasi over there, can I plant mangrove everywhere? No. Can I put seawall everywhere? maybe for a short time, but then the seawall disappears. So we have to be very specific on our solution depending on where we are as well. So while I'm giving this presentation, what are the different accounts that will help you make this decision? What is appropriate? Where? How much? When? Will the community agree? Will they not agree? Who are the people we need to talk to implement the solution? All of this inside accounts. Okay, so for the next 3 days. Thank you. So why do we need accounting? So many times we have national policy that goes down into provincial policy. And then we have our goals, our targets, things we want to achieve. And we can do this through implementation frameworks. So for example, the development plans, protected areas. We could also have blue economy targets. Each of these will hopefully have a program, a project that will affect the environment, the economy, and society. But many times, all of this data is split between the different organizations. Maybe economy or social is with BPS, for example, the statistics. Economy, maybe that's some of the information you need is in another ministry or in Bapanas. Maybe environment, some of the data is within Ministry of Environment or KKP. How can we put all of this together so that we know what we need and the direction that we're going to achieve our goals and our targets? So in the next slide, what ocean accounting does is it gives you a set of indicators. The most famous indicator at the moment, GDP. Now GDP measures the growth of the economy. But we still don't have GDP for the ocean or the coast. How fast is our blue economy growing, for example? The next key gap is sustainability. How much do we have left? Will the growth continue over time? And then for coastal community group, who benefits? Where does the growth go to? What groups do they go to? Can we distinguish between the growth going to big sectors or to community and so on? So each of these you can produce from an account. So in the next slide, before ocean accounting only started in 2019. There was already in Indonesia many, many different projects that applied different methods. There's the scientists, there was the accountants, there was private sector, everyone using different method, different concept, different definition. So we really need some way of bringing everyone together so that we can understand each other. And in the next slide, this was what was happening. All of the different standards, or not even standard, different methods. And so what we tried to do with the national standard of Indonesia and also with ocean accounting is fix the concepts so that everyone agrees this is the way forward. In the next slide. What we're trying to do here is the whole system. You can always make another dashboard. But if you have a good system underneath, you can start to go beyond just a quick view. Maybe you see how much coral, how much seagrass, how much mangrove. This is good, but next slide, and it's scary, but I'll walk you through it. We need to get to this. Now over here, this is what BPS does. Fishing, forestry, palm oil, oil and gas. These are the economic sectors for GDP. Yep. What we're trying to do is link all of our ecosystems, all our natural assets, to start showing how these economic sectors will be impacted by the change in ecosystems. So if I remove mangrove, what happens to fishing? If I remove, for example, forest, what happens to other sectors as well? We can see a lot of dependencies here, and Ocean Accounts tries to make this visible. So, in the next. This is NSDL. It is based on UN standards. So many years ago, 1958, there was a standard, 80 pages, on how to measure your economy. The last one came out in 2025, so just last year. It's now 900 pages on how to measure every sector of the economy. But still, it does not measure how the environment contributes to the economy in a full way. So, the standard in 2012 came out, looking at energy, water, fish. But only in 2021 we have ecosystems. And so we can look at mangrove, seagrass, forests. And now I think there's more than 90 countries have implemented the ecosystem accounting. But like many things, everything advances quicker on land, and we still have a lot of work to do for ocean. And that's why we have ocean accounting. So in the next slide, this is the framework. I'm just going to show specific accounts, specific modules or components. And I want you to look at which will be the most helpful for your challenge. We're going to look at the asset, natural asset. Next, we have ecosystem services. So jasa ecosystem. And then next, we have the blue economy as well. And finally, one more, the flows to the environment. So in the next slide, these are what we consider the assets. So in traditional terms, we have human capital, so people, we have produced capital, port, gas pipeline, buildings. But only recently we're trying to push the concept of natural capital, something that needs to be measured, something that needs to be protected because it provides value. So capital such as seagrass, coral, mangrove, tidal marsh. So this we're starting to think of in terms of an asset. Next. So how do we measure this? If you're an investor in a port, you want to know where is the port, how big is the port, what is the condition of the port? Is it new? How many 20-foot units can it support? Things like this. Take the same concepts, but apply to ecosystem. So we have the extent of the ecosystem. Where is the mangrove? So you see a small mangrove forest there. What is the area? And then what is the condition? So from our colleague on blue carbon, how much carbon does it have? How many species? What's its biomass? What's its density? So we have extent, then we have condition. Next. So with this one, we're trying to show something very similar to your bank account. This is a table. If you look at a Ministry of Finance report, this is what they show. No? So we're taking scientific data and converting it into something that they will understand and they are familiar with. So the Statistics Department, Ministry of Finance, or Planning, if you present them something like this, maybe they're more familiar. And it's the same thing with your bank account as well. So you have, for example, How much did you have at the start? How much did you have at the finish? And then what changed? Just like your bank account. So we can look at different classes, different types, and we can say, how much mangrove did we have 5 years ago? How many mangroves do we have now? And what's the difference? But also, what did it become? If we lost mangrove, did it become cropland? Did it become grassland? And we can see the change in the land use over time. So maybe useful for this group here. Next. Now, we're starting to look at how does the ecosystem benefit society and the economy, and through the concept of a service, which is a flow. So how much are you getting from this asset over time? So, for example, you can have a mangrove, and then you can have mud crab, and you can catch the mud crab. And that mud crab you can sell and get money. And you can measure this in the number of mud crabs or the weight of the mud crab, but you could also measure in rupiah. And so you can link, you have the amount of mud crab, how many jobs or what's the income related to that mud crab. So you can see the question at the bottom. If the mud crab changes, the habitat changes, the mangrove, what happened to the jobs? What happened to the income because of the change in the mangrove? So next. I think one very important thing, when we say accounting, everyone thinks straight away rupiah, right? Money. But when we do this exercise, when we create accounts, many times just by putting all of the information together, we get a lot of value. We understand the system better. We do not have to always go to monetary terms. Sometimes it's better, we don't have enough evidence, we just stay in the physical terms. We don't always have to go to the monetary terms. Next. So, another thing that we do with the accounting is we try and understand the ocean or the coastal component of GDP, of economic sectors. Many sectors, obvious that it's blue. So fishing, for example, obviously, it's related to the ocean. But when we measure tourism, when BPS measures tourism, they do not distinguish between tourism inland and tourism on the coast. So we don't know how fast the ocean tourism is increasing, for example. Or for insurance, we don't know how much maritime insurance is when we're reporting. Or for construction as well. It's hidden inside of the wider component. So we need to do extra work to understand the specific contribution of the ocean to the sector. Next. Sorry, one more. The final one, we looked at the ecosystem to the economy. Now we're going back from the economy to the ecosystem. How is the economy impacting the ecosystem? And so the most obvious answer is pollution. So we can start to measure pollution. This is from Australia. This is the waste accounting. And we looked at how much different industry and different households produced of plastic in the whole country. Next. So for 2019, or I think 2018, we calculated 2.55 million tons of plastic for the country. And then we can start putting it together. So next. So we can see how much of the plastic went to landfill, how much recycling, how much incinerated. And WRI can show you the case study from Indonesia. But you can see how accounting can be used for different challenges. It could be for economy, it could be for waste, it could be for mangroves. Next. Oh, and this is the key question that is very difficult. How much of the plastic goes into the environment? Next. So, one more. When we look at accounting, at the moment it's very much focused on national accounting. It's very big accounting. A lot of my work is at the local and provincial level because they want to use the accounting to solve a problem. So for example, blue carbon projects or parametric insurance, which we can talk about one day. But next, sorry. What we can see is if you have ocean accounting, all of the existing projects, we can try and make them compatible and compare between the projects. We can also get new projects and compare them with older projects. So just ask yourself, how many times have we seen a project that started and it can't use the data from a previous project? It happens a lot. Maybe not compatible, different method. If we use ocean accounting, hopefully we can try and standardize, use existing projects, and all your new projects have the same structure as well. Next. Yep, new project at the bottom. Okay, next. At the provincial scale, let's say you have 10, 15, 30 projects. How does this help? If you have an SDL at the bottom, you could think of this as the foundation, your evidence base. And then that can inform finance, that can inform policy, and all your different strategies, maybe environmental strategy, social strategy, and then that goes into your planning. So this is your implementation, what you do, and what we're developing is the evidence so that you have good planning. Next.